Okay, good morning, everyone, and warm welcome to this session, Developing the Young Workforce and the Future of it, at the SLF. It's great to see so many on the call, and I'm quite sure as we speak, there'll be more people coming in. This, as I said, is the session where we have a look at what DYW means for us at the moment collectively, and also as we go into the future. The SLF is all about the current context of renewing, refreshing, and reimagining what we do in education. I am going to be joined today by my colleague Peter Murray from Education Scotland, as well as Andrew Ritchie from Aberdeenshire Council, who will all bring a perspective to this discussion today and to the presentation. Before I start, I want to just say that if you could please keep your microphones and your cameras switched off for the session, and so we don't have any interruptions coming in. And if you want to comment on anything and you want to contribute, please do that through the chat function, which is on the side menu of the presentations. So do feedback. We want to hear from you. We also have built in a couple of interactive elements for you through Mentimeter. So you will need a second device or a second screen where you can actually access and contribute to the discussions through that medium. We'll show you in a minute where the link for that is, and it's actually already posted in the chat as well. So if you want to do that, then get ready for that. And also to say that this session will be recorded. So for your own information, just keep that in mind. I would like to start by briefly outlining what we envisage the session to be about. We want to bring really a national perspective for you on the future of DYW. We want to fill you in what nationally has been discussed and agreed to go forward when we now progress the whole agenda collectively in Scotland. We'll also have a look at the learner journey and at attainment, which will be an element that plays into it significantly into the whole discussion about DYW. And we're absolutely delighted that Andrew can give us his perspective, his current work, warts and all, from Aberdeenshire Council. So we've got a contextualization for you as well. So these three elements will form the next 35 minutes of the presentation. And we'll then have another 10 minutes, hopefully at the end, where you can ask your questions, where you can probe us, where you can come back to things that you may want clarification on. So we do want that element as well. So please do keep that in mind already. If you have any questions, prepare them, fire them up, put them in the chat, because the more we get interaction from yourselves, even during the presentation, the more exciting it will become and valuable from all our perspectives. Before we start, quick Mentimeter question. When you look at DYW, what does DYW actually look like from your perspective and your context at the moment? What is it like for you? So just a very quick comment, just a couple of thoughts. If you go onto the Mentimeter link, right, and then key in the code 44101033, then you can contribute. So what does DYW look like in your own context, from your perspective, particularly as you look into the future of all of this? What's on your horizon? What's on your spectrum just now? Where are you going to see this developing? A couple of key words would be just helpful from our point of view, and then we know a little bit more about yourselves and where you sit. So maybe give 2 minutes. Yeah,
we've got some responses already because obviously people have fired in. So we've got we have a specific focus annually. We've got making links and lessons. We've got meta skills. We've got work experience. We've got the workforce. We've got woven throughout the school, equipping young people. We've got lots and lots and lots of responses. What it would seem like that the people in the room, a lot of people in the room already have a structure in terms of DYW. Lots of people talking about local community business and community-based and woven throughout the school. Just a few for you there, Klaus. Just a few.
Magic. Folks, that's really helpful. That reassures us that what we are going to talk to you about sits very firmly in your vision. And I'm just picking up some of the things you're saying. So an annual plan, right? It's absolutely crucial that we look ahead, not just for a couple of months or for a couple of elements in the curriculum, but actually we have a strategic plan in place for the year ahead, that we have a vision of where we want our young people to be. Work placements, work experience, the reality of what DYW manifests itself in. Really important that we keep a strong vision on that we expose our young people as much as we can to what the future holds for them. Just some of the bits about skills, a core part of everything that we want to do. And you'll see in my slides very quickly that what you are saying was actually and is actually echoed by everyone in education, including Gail Gorman, who presented on that yesterday as well. And I want to start with that, folks. I want to start with the theme of the SLF today, where we renew, refresh, reimagine what we are doing in education. And if I'd listened right to what Gail Gorman was saying in her presentation, and also Ken Muir in his vision for what the future structures in education may look like, then here are a couple of themes that echo what you've just put in the Mentimeter, actually. First of all, what you're telling us really is that DYW is and will remain a recognized and recognizable entity across Scottish education. And I want to say one thing from the very start. Please be reassured that DYW is to stay. We had conversations with the Scottish Government and the ministers, and particularly Mr. Hepburn was very clear on that DYW will be in system as well, in term, as well as in reality and in the sort of manifestations. And it will be a significant part of what Mr. Swinney in the past has referred to as the 3 pillars in education, and that is GIRFIC, that is the curriculum for excellence, or Scotland's curriculum, and that is DYW. So that all stands firm. So we are in firm ground, folks. What may change is some of the way we articulate DYW in our own context and what we say about it and how we see it. Maybe we need to adapt the language towards employability skills, you know, and work experiences. But DYW, the umbrella of that, will remain with us. So that's why we are investing today in speaking to you about the next 45 minutes or 35 minutes around DYW. It is to stay. You talked about working with the community in your chat as well, and that's something Gail Gorman mentioned as well in the presentation. Education has to move towards collaboration far more with other people. It's more and more complex what we do, so therefore we need more people to help us along the journey, and that can be done. Think about the employers that you've mentioned in the chat, right? Many of us have now firmly invested in that and embedded that. Think about colleges who support the learner journey. Think about parents. Think about third sector organizations that can help, something like Scotland's Enterprising School. So we're working with communities, with the people around us, with primary schools, with secondary schools together to build that learner journey for young people. Ultimately, of course, what we want is to prepare young people for what's ahead of them. So we mentioned the skills. You put that in the chat as well. So the systematic development of skills through the learner journey came through the SLF as well yesterday. We need to have a firm think about this and a firm plan about how we do this best. A little bit about that in a minute. But the importance for me is to prepare learners for the big changes that we've experienced over the last 1.5 years or so, the rapid changes through COVID, but also the bigger changes in the economy and so on. So how do we do this best? And I think DYW is a very, very strong component part of making sure that that is part of the curriculum. And that's my last section here. We need to now take Scotland's curriculum for excellence, and make it into something that manifests and develops and actually evokes the things that are outlined above. In other words, the changes, you know, the community elements, and bring it to life. Curriculum for Excellence is an open entity. It's flexible. It's for us. to make it what we feel prepares young people best for the future. And the OECD report recently has certainly reassured us in that. So very quickly, a couple of key thoughts. Challenges that are ahead of us for young people. And keep in mind the DYW element of it. How do we make sure that those young people who are disproportionately affected by the economic impact of COVID, how do we make sure that we bring them along in the journey? I think DYW has a strong element to play in this. We do see at the moment an increase in youth unemployment over the last 1.5 years. Hopefully, now that the economy is readjusting and the landscape is changing and rapidly changing, that will open up new opportunities for young people, and the elements will drop. But what we see is quite a fluctuation in the youth unemployment or the youth employment element per se. So rapid changes there in the economy as well. I'm just recently, when you just look through the news that's coming up, and you see that we've got sustainability in there, major global issues, you know, renewable energy or energy as such. So there's a big change going on. Globalization, technology is moving rapidly forward. Young people now have been exposed probably to the most significant change in the way they communicate, in the way people interact, in the way people work together around the world than has ever happened, certainly in the times I can remember being in education. There is also an increased demand for higher skilled workforce. There is no question about that, particularly in IT. So how do we make sure that DYW takes that bit with it? And of course, there is always this risk that we are lagging behind slightly, and young people are underprepared for the world of work. Sometimes that's still echoed by employers, not always, but it's something we need to keep in mind. So DYW, unlocking the future for young people. If we talk about education, if we talk about these challenges, then I think we need to far more overtly and consciously weave elements of employability into what we do in education. I want to just highlight a couple of things. These contexts have been now identified nationally as priorities for DYW. The local authority leads in Scotland, plus DYW partners, have sat together and thought, what elements do we now really focus on going forward when we develop DYW? And one is the absolute essential one, and that's Scotland's curriculum. If we are true to what we want to do for our young people, in other words, prepare them for the world that they live in, then we need to focus on that. We also need increasing partnerships in that. Education is, as I said earlier, more complex, and that's been identified by national leads. We need to work in partnership. The increase in skills, that's been echoed from many different sides, including your chats, as an integral part of learning and teaching needs to be in a firm place, and the word systematic is one that is probably an important one we need to consider. How do we do this, not just sort of spontaneously or sort of conceptually, but also systematically? There is some learning going on, professional learning and development. That's been identified nationally as well, that we need to keep the teachers and practitioners well informed about industry, about the changes, about the labor market, and that has to be a firm element. And then there is one bit that always comes last, but actually is in many ways the most important one. How do we make sure that equalities and the inclusion agenda, equity, is built into the system? And in all of these areas, DYW has a firm footing. So we can actually collectively do a lot moving the system forward and work with young people through the DYW agenda. Couple of thoughts. First of all, the curriculum. You're aware of the refresh narrative, and just look at, if you look at that slide in front of you, you see that you can easily see behind it, in the heart of it, DYW shine through. If Scotland's curriculum for excellence is to help our children and young people to gain the knowledge, the skills, and the attributes that are needed for life in the 21st century, then I would suggest to you that DYW is exactly that bit that injects a real element of future safeguarding the curriculum. So in other words, if young people need to be prepared for the future and have the skills and the knowledge and the dispositions, the inner drive, then the curriculum needs to morph towards the realism of what young people are facing in the future, and particularly when it comes to employment. Remind you very quickly about the 4 capacities, right? And they're actually, the skills element shines through very strongly in that. So how do we do this? That we have confident individuals, we've got effective contributors, and we've got successful learners. And how do we make sure that we do this? These are all elements that are important for young people in the future. So they're important for employers, they're important for us, and they're important for them. So the curriculum that we have in Scotland actually is very well versed and placed in delivering what young people need to have in the future. So the skills very much run through the background of them. And then there is the totality of all that the curriculum is. And again, if you've listened to presentations in the past in the SLF, you have heard this. So the curriculum side, or the curriculum areas and subjects, is actually only one part of the bigger jigsaw of Scotland's curriculum, and that includes interdisciplinary learning. It includes the elements of opportunities for personal achievement, and it includes the community, so the life and the ethos of the wider community. So again, I want you to think very quickly where DYW sits in any of these 4 areas. And if it doesn't, then that's maybe a challenge for us to consider. How do we make sure that DYW and employability skills, the experiences, workplace method, add to the personal achievement? How do you make sure that interjects across the curriculum areas, that it's interdisciplinary, that it draws upon various different areas and disciplines? How do we ensure that the community is involved? And, of course, importantly, how does it manifest itself in the offers for young people through the subject choices and the curriculum areas? I mentioned the OECD report earlier on, and there's a previous publication that the OECD put forward, and they really asked 2 questions. I would almost say you can replace curriculum design or redesign with curriculum making, whichever way you construct the curriculum, right? Here is what internationally is seen as important. First of all, that stakeholders constantly ask themselves, who and what is the curriculum for? And once that question is answered, then the second one really is, how do we make sure that all stakeholders understand that the curriculum is a living and evolving tool, nothing fixed, nothing linear, nothing static, but it needs to be renewing constantly, it needs to be refreshed, and it needs to be reimagined because of the rapid changes that we have. At the end of the day, we need to serve our young people and make sure that they are placed with the tools, the skills, the knowledge, and the attributes in order to move forward in their lives. So nothing static. So the curriculum is for us, folks, is a mandate here from the OECD, is for us to refresh, reconsider all the time. And we need to make that as strong as we know our young people, and in order to serve them well. I mentioned partnerships, and a very brief word on that as well. I think it's important to say that you're not alone in this, right? And I mentioned the complexity of learning and the rapid changes that are going on, particularly around industry and future developments, technology, and so on. In order to future-proof that, I think we need partners with us on the journey. And I mentioned already some of them, the colleges, the primary schools, the secondaries, together with the parents, the third sector, the employers, and so on. So the DYW regional groups, for example, have played a key element in that. So consideration too You know, how do we make sure that we bring in partners and allow them to participate in the curriculum making or design and the delivery effectively? How do we make sure that learners focus on their needs and we focus on their needs and the labor market? So what do individual learners need? We need to go back to that element that's in the Scottish curriculum that talks about personalization and choice. How do we make sure that we really are true to that? Because at the end of the day, that's what inspires young people. That's what injects the drive forward, and that's what switches people on to their learning and to their making of their pathways. We maybe need to have a strategic plan in place for partnership working. I know there are some schools in Scotland who actually have a significant amount of work already done in that area, and there's a longer term commitment also for partnerships in our thinking. And we need to adapt the partnerships to the post-COVID context now. I think for me that's one of the crucial ones. We've learned a lot, we've come through a lot, so that's important. Very quickly about skills, and I realize that skills is one of the things you've mentioned. We do know that skills are the currency for young people's future. So the systematic planning of that needs to be built in. Look at this here. The future is rapidly changing here around the skills sector, and it's predicted through the World Economic Forum here that many people, 50% of employees, need to reskill by 2025. That's only 4 years away, folks. That 40% of current workers' core skills are expected to change, and that it's that the collection of skills, knowledge, attributes, and abilities is actually enables young people to perform a job and roles. I think that's absolutely important for us to realize, and we need to respond to that in Scottish education. And how we do that? Now, we have an endorsement in curriculum, building the curriculum 4. It was all about skills for learning, life, and work. We know that. But we also have other things come through, like the meta skills. You all have a thought about this. It's about how we systematically drive that forward. Can I just refer you back to 2 other curriculum curriculum contexts, and that's the National Improvement Framework. Look at it, right? The very last priority, improving the employability skills and sustain positive leavers destinations for all young people. That remains a priority, and we need to consider that. And also the Scottish Attainment Challenge, that all Scotland's children and young people reach their full potential. DYW is very much in that sphere of thinking. Now, I stop here and pause for a moment, fully realizing that people have put things in the chat, and I haven't followed that, but I believe, Peter, you have responded to that. But at this stage, I would like to hand over to yourself to talk a little bit about the learner journey, if you could come in on that.
Yeah, thanks, Klaus. So the next 2 slides, or the next 3 slides, are going to talk about very quickly context about learner pathways and skills development, and then we're going to have a bit of context from one of our speakers. So you can see the slide there just now. Is what we're looking to do is we're looking to look at the curriculum and how the curriculum has changed across Scotland. We're not talking about one school. We're talking about this across lots of different schools. So this approach is an approach that we saw across most or a lot of schools in Scotland. So you can see that the curricular area, we've picked science for this one, and we're looking at, rather than just think about your National 4, National 5 and your hires, we're looking at the SEQF as a benchmark, and how can schools then offer more in the curriculum, but we're still within the subject area. So you can see there we've got things like MPA, which is a Natural Progression Award in science. We've got FA in engineering, and we've got the skills to work engineering skills. And these can all be then related back to the skills. So what we can see is that we have them linked to the career education standard in the yellow boxes, and we can see them linked to the meta skills there as well. So we can see that schools can now change the thought. In my school, we looked at not just doing computing, we looked at doing cybersecurity, we looked at doing games development. It was changing the landscape going forward. We can also do this as well across all curricular areas. So you've got in this one here, you get a host of different subject areas. You've got acting and performance, which should be done in the English department. MP criminology could be done across the sciences. Photography, usually done in the art department. Skills for work, rural skills, which could be done with in partnership with a college. Automotive skills, again with the college, and then construction crafts. The idea here is we're broadening the range of subjects that are available to young people, but still linking it back to the pillars of DYW, still talking about the career education standard, still talking about skills, still talking about partnerships, and still talking about making sure that we're tying into the work placement standard. And going forward, this is the view that we have. We can see this going forward. This is a simple slide here, and this is a whistle-stop tour. And we're quite happy to take any questions, but it's a whistle-stop tour. So, in Attainment, we've saw since 2014, which was the introduction of DYW, a massive increase in the number of awards at SEQF levels 4 to 6. So you can see the other stages there. You can see we've got the total, and you can see that from 2014 to 2021, there has been a significant increase in the number of SEQF level awards. That, we believe, is due to the range of qualifications that are now possible. And I think that shows quite clearly that we, going forward, we have a much improved idea of where the curriculum should be for all learners, and not just the learners who we've always maybe looked at as we're standards, we're National 4, National 5, and we're hires, which of course are important. But looking at the SEQF level 4, 5, and 6 as the benchmark, we can see clearly that skills-based awards and attainment in Scotland has improved over the 7 years that's come up. I'm now going to pass you. We will take it. What we'll do is we'll take the questions at the end of the session, and we'll go through as many questions as possible. I do understand that we've got a primary school question, and we will try our best to get to that question as well. But I'm going to pass you over to Andrew Ritchie from Aberdeenshire Council, who's going to take us through some context to the changing landscape.
Thanks, Peter. Good morning, everyone. As Peter says, I'm Andrew Ritchie. I'm the lead officer for developing young workforce in Aberdeenshire Council. And Klaus and Peter have asked me really to take us through kind of where we are with DYW in Aberdeenshire, and outline how we've developed up the DYW curriculum through specifically foundation apprenticeships, and then take you through how this development is helping deliver improved outcomes for our young people in the senior phase. So, well, where are we with DYW? Well, it's certainly alive and kicking in Aberdeenshire, and we've got significant plans in how we move things forward. As Klaus is saying, we very much view DYW as one of the 3 key pillars in Scottish education, and our work in this area is very much in line with that. What we're aspiring to do, I suppose, to put it into this kind of context, is the holy grail of ensuring that we have an appropriate pathway for all our young people at all times. In terms of the kind of strategic context for that, has simply been laid out very well by Klaus and Peter, and some really interesting slides in there for my colleagues in terms of how we move forward with DYW. So the strategic context is quite clearly Scotland's curriculum and the curriculum refresh, and increasingly the OECD recommendations. So our priorities in Aberdeenshire, well, these priorities have actually now been in place for a few years with us, and they'll continue to be in place because we can't underestimate actually the level of change that's required. And the initial 7-year programme through 2014 to 27, we've made really good progress, I think, across the country. But there still remains a lot to be done, and as I say, we can't underestimate the shift that's required there. In terms of the development of the, if you like, the DYW curriculum, as Klaus and Peter have been saying, very much the career education standard entitlements 3 to 18, the work placement standard, and these other key documents that Klaus and Peter have been referencing previously. But it's interesting, with the development of the senior phase and the foundation apprenticeships, we see even more clearly now, and I noticed there was a couple of questions about the primary side of things, but we see really the importance of the early years in the broad general education in developing up the DYW work-based learning and skills curriculum, because we've got to get that right to ensure everything else is right. And it's really, these are the foundations that underpin all we do. In terms of skills development, the embedding skills for learning, life and work, meta skills, Peter's slides there highlighted things well. There was an excellent presentation yesterday, and if we can see the recording, if you haven't seen it, I would suggest you do, in terms of meta skills and the whole area about skills profiling, again, is a key area for us. Partnership development, absolutely the heart of all we do, and including partnership, obviously, with employers, and then the support for the very important equalities agenda. Which kind of brings me on to foundation apprenticeships. And we identified foundation apprenticeships as crucial in our DYW curriculum offer. It was addressing the recommendations 1 and 2 of the Wood report, the DYW report. And so it was really important that we introduced this curriculum offer in the senior phase. But it was also, in our thoughts, was using the FAs to address the raising attainment challenge, and ensuring that we're looking to close the attainment gap by providing a meaningful curriculum pathway for all. If you can move on to the next slide, please, Klaus. So in terms of where we are specifically with foundation apprenticeships, before we move on, we've done a lot of work on foundation apprenticeships over the last couple of years, and simply this would not have happened if it hadn't been for the support of our head of education, Vincent Doherty, but also the excellent DYW and FA team that's leading in this, the just superb work in terms of moving this whole agenda on. In terms of the background, very much this has all been to do with partnership. The partnership, and not least with SDS, both at a regional and national level, but also, as you can see along the bottom of the slide here, partnerships with pupils, the parents, the schools, the employers, our industry providers and external providers, as well as the SDS and the FA team. Absolutely crucial how we've moved this forward. Following a review of our FA offer, we decided to become a lead provider in June 19, and our model of delivery is looking at the whole area of the parity of esteem between the foundation apprenticeship and the other higher and senior phase courses. That was really, really important when we put this together. The model that we introduced was very much a one-year model, which fits in with the nature of the senior phase curriculum. The only FA that we do over 2 years is the engineering one, and crucially, it's a universal offer. It was really important to us that we did this. This wasn't for a particular group of pupils. This was for everyone, because whether you leave school to enter the world of work, or enter college, or go to university, at some point you enter into the world of work, and the skills that were being developed up through the foundation apprenticeships and were so important to everybody, and that was a crucial thing. Another significant aspect of our delivery model in the foundation apprenticeships was the fact it was in-school delivery. Our foundation apprenticeship courses are timetabled in school, as you would timetable any other senior phase course, and obviously do the work placements out of school, but that was important because, again, it comes back to that parity of esteem. This is not something that is extra or somehow no part of your core curriculum. This is core curriculum stuff and very much of value. Delivery in our schools is by our own staff where at all possible, or where that's available or appropriate. We've got, we bring in partner providers who bring in that kind of industry standard quality of delivery. So I've been really, really pleased with the quality of the delivery of their foundation apprenticeships. In terms of outcomes, we'll come on to that in the next slide, but the very successful retention and full FA completion rates, the offer, and very positive feedback from the pupils, the parents, the schools, employers and so on. So we're very pleased with the progress so far. And one other aspect I should mention, up in the northeast here, we've had real problems over the last few years recruiting both in the childcare, children and young people side of things, if you like, and also in health and social care. And we've really developed up that offer in these areas, and we're hoping that this will have a knock-on effect in our own workforce development. In terms of growth, you can see the offer, it has grown significantly from when we started off with 208 in the first year. At level 6, we've now got well over 600, almost pushing 700, but at level 4, 5 and 6, and that's what we're currently delivering. And then in terms of the work placements, in situ work placements, for example, we've currently got all 125 children and young people FAs in our schools and in our early years settings, doing that. And we've introduced work-based challenge, work with SDS and others in this, the SQA and Education Scotland work-based challenge units, the industry challenge options have all been crucial in us ensuring that we deliver a quality product. If you could move on to the next slide, please, Klaus. So what about impact? Well, the interesting thing about the impact is that, and really, before I go any further on this, the data here has been produced through Insight analysis, and it's been my colleague Gordon Lennon who's produced this. My thanks to Gordon, absolutely superb piece of work this. But before we go into the slide, so the impact of an appropriate pathway through the foundation apprenticeships, we need to stress this is emerging practice, albeit very interesting emerging practice, I think, but we do not have everything right. We've still got lots to do. And in terms of the data, I'm just going to take you through. This will vary year on year. It is also 1 year's data. It's from 1920, which is the most recent data that we've got. It won't be until February or March that we get the 2021 data. And also Aberdeenshire Council's got a relatively small decile 1 to 4 cohort, and this is reflected in the data. So with that kind of health warning, if we look at the slide here, you can see in the middle column there, all Aberdeenshire learners. These are all Aberdeenshire leavers, and from the 1920 cohort. And you can see their positive destinations, 94.7%. And if you look across to the FA cohort, which of course was the 208 pupils, you can see that the positive destinations from those who studied an FA was 98.1%, a significant increase. And then if you look at the next part of the table, you'll see the average Insight tariff points. Now, for those of you who may not know, Insight tariff points are the points that each SQA course and certificate that a young person gets in a school, they are allocated Insight tariff points, Insight being the programme that measures schools' attainment. So for all Aberdeenshire leavers, the average Insight tariff point for a leaver from an Aberdeen school in 2019-20 was 940 points. For those who studied an FA, the average Insight tariff point was 1,436, which was a very significant increase. Then the really interesting thing we've uncovered is the fact that the deprivation-related attainment gap. So what we've done here is we used the deciles 7 to 10 minus the deciles 1 to 4. The SIMD is the Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation. So those who are most deprived are in deciles 1 to 4. Those who are least deprived are in deciles 7 to 10. So a simple calculation there, and you can see that across all Aberdeenshire leavers, there was a significant deprivation-related attainment gap of 434 Insight tariff points. That's something we really do need to address, and the Scottish Government, obviously, their policies there are in place to address that. If you look at the Aberdeenshire leavers who'd studied an FA, however, and again, I go back to our caution in terms of the data, but this is significant. We are seeing actually a reversal of the deprivation-related attainment gap here. Which has been very interesting. So, answer the question, can FAs help close the attainment gap? Well, the data here would suggest it's certainly got a role to play. But as well as the data, we're actually picking up other things in terms of travels and in our feedback. We're seeing a more meaningful curriculum pathway, as I've just described, but we're also seeing increased engagement through the FA and also increased re-engagement across other subjects because of the nature of the delivery of the FA. So quick snapshot, folks, of where we are. And then basically, and in conclusion, it is obviously vitally important that we offer appropriate pathways for all, and that's how we should be moving forward. And in doing so, we can really improve the outcomes for all and close the deprivation-related attainment gap. And as I say, we're looking forward to the next year's data to see where we are with things in that. And that's me, Klaus.
Andrew, thanks very much for sharing that. That's really exciting. Just to see here, the key point is this, right? If we get the learner journey right, folks, like Andrew just described in one example, I think it could have a massive impact on the attainment of young people. I think that's the message I'm deducing from here. So the curriculum offer, together with the learner pathways, getting that right or righter, will have an impact. Thanks, Andrew. That's been absolutely smashing. Peter, can I move on to you again, please?
Yeah, so I'll try and get through these last slides very quickly. We've only got 5 minutes left. So Young Person's Guarantee has been sort of developed across Scotland, and you can see it is a guarantee that they'll be paid employment for a period of 16 to 24 months. They'll be enrolled in education. They'll take part in training and work experience. So basically, this is a programme that will guarantee young people have the opportunity to secure a positive destination, and that will be supported in all secondary schools in Scotland by the DYW coordinators, which is a massive, massive thing for Scottish education. And I've probably got a lot of the DY coordinators in the room just now. So it's an opportunity for the DY coordinators to work with young people across Scotland to make sure that we've got an increase in the positive destinations, which has actually been increasing over the last number of years as well. I've put some things in the chat already to do with the resources, but I'm going to quickly go through the resources. So there is a DYW summary page on the National Improvement Hub. I've added a link to the blog and I'll reblog it. In that blog, there is a link to the summary, which is all of the DYW things all in one place, to the DYW Wakelet, which is a Wakelet resource where you get links to all sorts of different resources. So these are available for everyone to use, and I would suggest that they are resources that we continually update, and if you want anything added to them, just let us know. So these are in the blog that I've added earlier. Quickly, because we had this yesterday, DYW Live is the new online portal that allows young people to have live lessons delivered to classrooms in a number of different range of subject areas. It's all about making sure that young people have the access to the world of work. This is the key point: access to the world of work. And by doing this online and by doing it through Glow, it means that every school in Scotland can access this. Linked to the NELO, including videos and resources, and it's a fantastic offer. Very quickly, some of the sessions you can see: careers in aquaculture, the Heritage Hero Awards from the museums. These are available online every day, and you'll find them on the eSchoil website and just type in DYW Live. The future of this is going to be that the sessions will be bookable on Marketplace. The new website is better, but we're going to get it better as it goes on. You can go in and you can filter by your sector, by your subject area, by the date you want to go in. And we add new courses as it goes along. There'll be more courses added in October. And for me, I'm very, very happy to tell you that there'll be virtual work placements arriving sometime in November. So this is, as Klaus said, the future of DYW Live, and this is the future of DYW. And I'm going to hand you back to Klaus to get that. That's a whistle-stop tour of our resources. I'll put the link to the blog in. Klaus?
Peter, thanks very much. And thank you very much also again to Andrew for the fabulous outline of the offers, of the context of DYW as such. I also want to thank people on the chat. Ken, thank you, Ken Edwards from SDS, for your contributions and your thoughts about meta skills, and also the links that you're posting. I think so far we managed to actually answer most of the questions that people have posted on the chat. However, can I say, if some of your questions are still hanging in the room and you really want an answer to things, why don't you just email us directly? I've just put my email in there, and we can continue the conversation on a different platform. I hope this has been inspiring for you and you take away some of the key reassurances and messages for us. DYW, folks, is alive and kicking, is here to stay. We will be moving forward because and with our young people in education to try and make sure that we prepare them as well as we can for their futures. And DYW must play and has to play an essential role in education as we progress this. So we'll be here to support you. DYW Life is here to support you, and everyone else and the organizations around DYW will be here too, including the Scottish Command. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining the session today. I wish you a fabulous rest of the SLF. And I hope to be in contact and touch with you at some point on your DYW journeys. All the best for the future.